The rain hammered the world in cold, relentless sheets as Bruno, a once proud German shepherd, limped down the police station hallway. His dark coat was sodden, every droplet tumbling off him and pattering on the tile floor like whispered regrets. A heavy bandage hugged his wounded hind leg, a reminder of a training drill gone wrong. At the hallway's end, Jake Reynolds, Bruno's partner for 6 years, stood stiffly by a closed office door. His eyes stayed glued to the ground. There were no gentle pats, no whispered reassurances, only a leash jingling as Jake opened the station door. "We can't keep him," Bruno heard, even if the words felt muffled behind walls. "He's just a dog, a liability." Without a glance back, Jake led Bruno out into the night, unclasped his collar and drove away, leaving Bruno standing alone under the relentless rain. What would guide him now? In the sudden stillness after the storm, Bruno's canine instincts warred with shock. For years, he'd obeyed every command without question. Now there was nothing but silence and the empty promise of returning footsteps that never came. He stood in the deserted street as headlights faded, heart pounding. The sky cleared, and stars flickered overhead, cold witnesses to his betrayal. With a deep, shuddering breath, Bruno shook himself free of rain and sorrow. One painful step led to another. There was no turning back now, only forward. Could he survive on his own? That first night was agony. Bruno curled on the hard earth, his injured leg pulsing with each heartbeat. The world around him lay dark and indifferent. But at dawn's first peach light, he rose, each step a sharp reminder of his wound. Memories of regimented meals and clear missions clashed with present hunger and thirst. Still, desperation lent him courage. He pushed on through tangled woods and empty fields, nose to the wind, driven by an urge he barely understood: to live. Where would he find shelter? Day after day, Bruno's paws found new paths. He scavenged for scraps by abandoned farmhouses and drank from shallow streams under the indifferent glare of the sun. Loss made each decision heavier. One wrong turn threatened disaster. But something kept him going. A flicker of purpose. A hope that destiny had one more mission in store. What lay beyond the next bend? On a dusky afternoon, Bruno stumbled on a modest house framed by a towering oak. Warm light spilled from windows. And laughter echoed as leaves drifted from branches. A toddler, Oliver, tottered on a blanket, enchanted by each flittering leaf. His mother, Sophie, hummed while laundry swayed on a line. Hidden behind the tree, Bruno's heart thumped with recognition. Something about this place felt right. He settled at the oak's base, injured leg resting on soft grass, and watched. Could this be a new beginning? Bruno settled into a silent rhythm. Observing Daniel depart for work, Sophie's juggling act between chores and phone, and Oliver's wide-eyed explorations. Though he dared not call near, his protective instincts sharpened each day. Sophie's distracted glances at her screen left Oliver dangerously unsupervised. Bruno decided, if no one else stepped in, he would. He was a nameless stray, but Oliver's safety mattered more than pride. Would they ever see him as more than a ghost in the yard? Then the black SUV appeared. It cruised past once, paused twice, and on its third pass, 2 men in dark glasses stepped onto the porch. Bruno's memories of service flooded back. Criminals caught off guard by his commanding bark. With a low rumble, he sprung from shadow to spotlight, fur bristling and gaze unwavering. The intruders froze, then retreated into their idling vehicle, tires screeching away. Sophie, drawn by the sudden disturbance, rushed out, only to see Oliver safe and Bruno slipping back beneath the oak. Who was this silent guardian? Peace crumbled one sunlit afternoon. With Sophie's voice rose in casual chatter, Oliver edging ever closer to the pool's edge. A gentle breeze waltzed across the water, its surface rippling like glass shards. In that heart-stopping moment, Bruno saw Oliver's tiny fingers reach out, and then a sudden lurch as the child toppled in. Instinct ignited, Bruno hurtled through the air and crashed into the pool with a thunderous splash. Underwater, he found Oliver, gripping his soaked fur, and guided him to safety with steadfast, practiced strokes. Oliver gasped for air as his head broke the surface, and Sophie's scream cut through the afternoon calm. Could a stray dog truly be a hero? Sophie's tears fell as she wrapped Oliver in her arms, gratitude mingling with disbelief. She looked at Bruno, soaked, panting, still alert, and whispered his name for the first time. Bruno. The single word rippled through him like warm sunlight. He held his ground until Sophie's tentative steps brought her within reach. When Oliver reached out a chubby hand, Bruno crossed the threshold into their lives and into their home. At last, he was no longer alone. Had he finally found where he belonged? Night descended with a warning rustle. Bruno, asleep by the front door. Stiffened at the faint sound of gravel under boots, he rose, muscles taut, and padded to the living room window. Through the darkness, two intruders crept across the yard, the same men from the SUV. Bruno lunged at the glass, barking with the authority of a sworn officer. Inside, Daniel vaulted from bed, Sophie grabbed Oliver, and neighbours flicked on porch lights as sirens screamed closer. The criminals bolted, straight into waiting police cars. Bruno remained at his post, gaze unwavering. Could his duty ever truly end? The following morning, whispers spread through the neighbourhood. That dog. Officers who once served with Bruno recognised his stance, his bearing. No longer wearing a badge, yet still protecting and serving. One took out his phone, already dialing reports of the legendary canine. Across the city, Bruno's deeds became a legend of loyalty and courage. What new chapter awaited this four-legged hero? Late that day, a patrol car rolled up to the Harpers' home. Out stepped Jake Reynolds, guilt etched on his face. Bruno, wary yet calm, watched from the yard. Jake approached slowly, knelt, and spoke in a hoarse whisper. "I'm sorry." From his pocket, he produced Bruno's service medal, the one he had relinquished. Bruno sniffed the gleaming badge, then pressed his head into Jake's hand in quiet forgiveness. It was a reunion neither understood fully, but both felt its weight in that silent moment. Could forgiveness mend even the deepest wounds? In the days that followed, the Harper family rallied around Bruno. Daniel and Sophie contacted the police and animal welfare groups to ensure no retired canine would ever be abandoned again. The department launched the Bruno Initiative, dedicating support to veterans of police service on 4 legs. Bruno had not only found a home, he had sparked a movement. Yet for him, the mission remained the same, guarding those he loved. Because some duties never end, and some hearts never stop fighting for a second chance. Is there any greater calling than to protect? Bruno quickly settled into his new rhythm with the Harper family, each day unfolding like the hopeful pages of a fresh chapter. Mornings began with the scent of sizzling bacon and toast, Sophie humming softly as she prepared breakfast, while Oliver toddled around the kitchen island, chattering with delight. Bruno lay at Sophie's feet, sunlight glinting off his wet fur in gentle patterns, content to simply be near them. Daniel would kneel to ruffle his ears before heading off to work, whispering, "Take care of our boy," and Bruno would lift his head at the sound of that familiar voice, eyes soft with understanding. Evenings found him curled by the fireplace, the crackle of burning logs and the warm glow reflecting in his wise, steady gaze. Yet amid this newfound warmth, an old sting lingered, a reminder of nights spent alone in the cold. Could a broken heart ever fully heal? Weeks later, the Bruno Initiative took shape beneath a bright spring sky. A small crowd gathered on the station lawn, former canine handlers, city officials, reporters buzzing with curiosity. Bruno sat proudly beside Jake, his medal gleaming in the sun like a badge of honour restored. When Jake stepped up to the podium, his voice trembled as he thanked every officer who had served with Bruno, every stranger who had cheered his story. Sophie and Daniel stood just behind him, baby Oliver perched on Sophie's hip, waving a chubby hand at the cameras. Then Jake uttered words that made Bruno's ears perk up. No dog should ever walk those dark roads alone again. As applause rippled across the lawn, Bruno's tail thumped the grass in quiet triumph. What new lives would this program save? That night, after the last grill smoke drifted into the starry sky and Oliver lay asleep in his crib, Bruno padded to the back porch. The air was cool and carried the soft hush of insects stirring in the nearby woods. He paused at the railing, head tilted, listening to the familiar cadence of crickets, nature's lullaby. Memories of rushing into that pool flash-flooded through him, the taste of cold water still fresh on his tongue. He thought of Jake's gentle apology, Sophie's tentative hand, and Oliver's trusting laugh. A gentle breeze ruffled his fur, carrying a scent of new beginnings. Bruno closed his eyes, chest rising and falling in measured peace. Yet deep inside, A quiet question lingered. He had found home, but would the road ever call him again? Was this the end of his journey, or only the calm before the next adventure?